All right, so there's a Proverbs that reads, Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And I'm telling you, Larry Elder was in a room with a bunch of fools on the Breakfast Club. They talked about fatherlessness. They talked about the state of Black America, systemic racism, mass incarceration. There's several questions that I would have for the crew of the Breakfast Club. I'd like to know who they voted for in 2020. Why were their answers to everything the system, this catch-all phrase that allows them to justify their own racism? Why is it that they're concerned about so much what white people did wrong, but not expanding the minds of Black Americans? I'd like to know how they became so successful within this system. I'd like to know if the African system is better. I'd like to know if they're so worried about reparations, why aren't they more worried about the plight of Black Americans today? We're going to deal with this and more in this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Stay tuned for some quick program messaging, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Please subscribe wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube and Rumble. Subscribe, rate, and review both on YouTube and Rumble. That will allow us to move up the charts. It will allow this message to be heard wide and far. We would certainly appreciate that. All things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. At The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. Please go to our Twitter account, subscribe there, or what's known as X now. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Getter. We're on Truth Social at The Carl Jackson Show. Please follow us there in any one of those places, wherever you might be. We would certainly appreciate the follow. I want to get into this story. Obviously, Larry Elder visited the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God and his crew. I don't know the name of the woman. I got to be frank with you. I don't care to. The lady was so condescending and nasty. I felt like Larry Elder should have used a different tact with her specifically. And I will get into that. I'll tell you why she's a fake and why she's a fraud. And it's a waste of time dealing with a person like her. Now, Charlamagne seemed a little more receptive. You had DJ Envy. That's part of the crew that was a little more quiet, but, asked questions at times. But I got to say this was a low information crowd. Listen, obviously these guys are talented when it comes to business. Otherwise, they would not be where they're at. But as far as having, I was led to believe I've seen clips of the Breakfast Club. I've seen clips. I've heard some things that Charlamagne has said in the past. Some sounded smart, some not so smart. Having watched this show, at least this one in its entirety, you're talking about low information voters to the max. And these people are influencing lots and lots of people. I'm not one of these people that are pining for popularity when it comes to playing clips of Charlamagne and just trying to kiss booty or do something for clips. I'm not doing that. Seems like a nice enough guy. All right. Apparently, he's a father, husband, so on, etc. And he seems like a nice guy. Obviously smart businessman, low information voter, no doubt. And I think his crew is even worse because he's the best of the thinkers on that program. Obviously. The lady over and over and over again, and we'll play this clip for you. Actually, we got a couple of clips for you. But the woman on the program over and over and over again, all she does is revert back to the word system. She's talking about the system, and she's trying to pretend as if she's smart. She's not smart. I guarantee you she wasn't even using that terminology probably 10 years ago. This idea of the system or systemic racism, this was something that Barack Obama brought into the ether. So maybe she was once Barack Obama came in. He started using this argument. The left began to use this argument. And then all of a sudden it became a talking point for blacks. And you can never combat this idea of the system. It's a catch-all phrase. It's like climate change. I don't care if you're in a snowstorm. They don't say global warming, these scientists anymore. They get paid to say climate change. Yes, that is a fact. They get paid. They're a bunch of climate hustlers, and they get paid to scare the crap out of people. Charlamagne's crew is no different, in my opinion, or they've fallen for the people. They get paid to keep arguing, the system. The system is systemically racist. Here's what I'd like to know. If the system is systemically racist, how the hell did 3 black people on this program make it? How the hell did you guys become so successful? Please let me know how you navigated through the system, you freaking hypocrites. This is what I can't stand. I don't believe this is why. This is where I think I stand apart from some conservatives and black conservatives specifically. I do not believe you need to cater to the black vote. I think it is a waste of time. Oh, Carl, oh man, you are a superstar. I don't care what you say. Listen, George W. Bush, if I recall correctly, I think it was in his second election, got 14% of the black vote. Trump did everything he could. Best economic numbers, job numbers for blacks. You know, illegal immigration down, which helps blacks overwhelmingly, because a lot of them aren't filtering into urban neighborhoods. Overwhelmingly, Trump did all he could to what is it? Good Lord, the imprisonment system, the thing that he did with the people that were incarcerated and reducing sentences. I mean, he did so many things. Oh, the black college thing. He literally, HBCUs funded black colleges in perpetuity for about 10 years, so they didn't have to keep coming back to Congress and begging for federal money. Opportunity zones that he did in black neighborhoods, incentivizing businessmen, rich businessmen, to invest in urban neighborhoods so that there would be more jobs and more opportunity. All of this stuff that Trump did, it didn't amount to, well, I take that back. He increased his vote percentage by 50%. He went from 8% to in 2016 to 12% in 2020. George W. Bush, and I'm not a big fan, but George W. Bush handled the economy, war on terror. What happened? 14% of the black vote. Trump did everything he could think of, 12%. You see what I'm saying? The truth of the matter is, if you want people to be treated equally, you know what you do? You treat them equally. You don't buy into these racist, bigoted arguments. The Breakfast Club, these are some of the most racist people that I've seen that are getting paid great money to be racist. And they don't even know it. They don't even know it. You know why? Because they don't check their God box. It's going to be God that judges them, not the black community, not the Democrat Party, not anybody else. I'm a little fired up because I didn't just watch these clips. I watched the entire hour, and I challenge everybody out there to watch the entire hour and then tell me whether or not you disagree with me. It is time to stop pandering to the black community. And here's what I mean by that. I don't mean that you don't ever go out and say, listen, these are our policies. This is how they help everybody. What you don't do is fall for these nonsense arguments. Well, the system is racist. What can you do specifically for black people? What can you do? Everything that needs to be done has been done. Slavery is over. Jim Crow is over. The KKK is basically abolished. All of these were Democrat institutions right here in the United States of America. Not to mention that slavery was universal. And because this is something that isn't going to come up in the videos that I share or that Gabe will share with us in just a minute here. But this idea that all whites owe reparations to blacks in the United States, it's laughable. You know why? Because the vast majority, and I'm talking 95% of whites, white affiliated, whatever, people in this country today, their ancestors came here after slavery. So this is an argument to be had, if it is worthy of being had, which I don't believe it is, with 5% of the population. Guess who that 5 is? I don't know. Can you guess? I don't know. I'd also like to know if these Charlemagne the God and his crew, I'd like to know if any of their ancestors in Africa were responsible for shipping slaves off. I don't know. Do they? Did any of their ancestors own slaves? Because slavery was universal. Slavery has existed from the beginning of time. In the West and in America, we ended slavery. No credit for that? All right, so I'll play a couple of these clips here, and we will dissect them. Brace yourself. This one isn't bad, but it is hard to watch. But the one with the female, yes, I'm saying it. The lady is, I think she's not just low information, low IQ like Joy Reid, but she gets away with it by being nasty, by being condescending, and by catering to low information voters. And by using this argument that's a catch-all, just like climate change, the system, so that you never have to take responsibility for anything. And all her argument will do and has done is kept blacks in poverty. Whenever all you can say is the system's fault, it's the system's fault, it's the system's fault, despite the fact that you've made it, there's an issue. And honestly, she's hurting more black people by saying the system, because she made it. But she's a bigot to her own people. She's telling other black people, you can't do it because of the system. Yeah, I did it, but you can't do it because of the system. She doesn't even know what she's talking about, in other words. But she's hurting black people by making up this fairy tale that there's some boogeyman called the system that stands in the way of your success. Nobody is standing in the way of your success except the Democrat Party in the United States of America. And that's only because they want a perpetual poor class that'll continue to vote for them. That's it. If there's a system, a system that is systemically racist, it's the Democrat Party. Don't believe a word they say when they say they're not independent. If you watch the entire show, everything they ask Larry Elder or talk about is not just a Democrat, but a left-wing talking point. Oh, but yeah, we're independent. BS you are. BS. You know you're not independent. Let me see your voting record. Stop lying to people. All right, let's go ahead and play the clip. We haven't even played the clip. My man Larry Elder, he demolished them. One man against three. He demolished them for the entire hour. It was a beatdown. The only clips that are being taken by the left are mostly this chick. Some things that Charlemagne may have said that they can use and say, all right, he scored a point here or there. Because some of their questions are just, boom, straight to the point and kind of accusatory, or not kind of, accusatory. Excuse me, in the way they come after Larry Elder. But if you watch the video in its entirety, he took these fools to school. All three of them for the entire hour. They didn't have anything on them. And I walked away thinking, before I started the video or before I started watching, I came in and I thought, man, let's see what Charlemagne is going to do. Let's see how he's going to bring it to them. I knew it would be a hostile crowd, but I didn't expect it to be a low information crowd. I got to be honest with you. I was seriously disappointed. Happy for Larry Elder because he decimated them. If you watch the entire hour and not just the clips the liberals are putting out, he decimated them. This man should be on the stage. I hope if you're listening to this podcast, you'll go to LarryElder.com. Even if you don't want him to win, it doesn't matter. These issues need to get on the stage. We need to start pushing back against this nonsense that America is systemically racist and the system, when a bunch of hypocrites like this are somehow finding ways to succeed. And I mean, succeed big time. The Breakfast Club and Charlemagne the God and his crew, they are extremely successful. All right, let's go ahead and roll the video. This is the first one of Larry Elder. Yeah, I think this is where Charlemagne the God, I hate saying the God, actually. I'm going to just call him Charlemagne. I refuse to call a man a God, all right? So Charlemagne, he talks about what's called the N-word wake-up call, all right? He uses the word, so I want to brace you. That word is going to be used, but I'm not going to repeat it. Hopefully you don't as well. I don't like blacks or whites to use that word, I'll be frank. But I do feel like it's important for you to hear it. It is the title of the podcast to add some context. But I do believe that Larry Elder gave these people, or at least some people that may have tuned in and watched the entire hour, not just clips, a serious N-word wake-up call. Let's roll it, Gabe.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seems to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation. Yeah, I'm just saying but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black people, black men walking around are really black. 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people. And I want to know, what is he going to do for my people? And not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them.
Pause that for just a sec. How are you going to atone for the things that you've done to my people? None of us know Charlamagne's history. And again, I go back to this. The vast majority of white people that live in the United States today are not associated with whites pre-Civil War. Many of their ancestors came through Ellis Island or came post the Civil War. Charlamagne doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, nor do the majority of blacks that think like him. I just have to make that point clear. I just have to make that point clear. I think we make the mistake of allowing the Charlamagnes and the Breakfast Clubs of the world to get away with some of the most stupid they ask some of the most stupid questions. And I would say there were even a couple of times where I felt like Larry Elder should have called out the female specifically on the show when she kept just condescendingly simple question. He should have turned to her every time she said that and said, no, it's a stupid question. She asked very stupid questions. It was clear that she is not up to speed on any stats, any facts, doesn't know how to count. It was clear. But all she has to do is be condescending, be strong, simple question, the system. Nothing but a racist bigot, a successful one at that. Let's go back to the clip.
Talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He opposes school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, it blew my mind.
All right, so Joe Biden, let me give you some other things that Joe Biden said. I guarantee you they voted for him. I guarantee you the entire Breakfast Club, if they voted, I guarantee you they voted for Joe Biden. So let me just give you a quick history, and then I want to move on to the next video. And that one is going to be hard to watch because it's very condescending. It's this chick that thinks she's smart, and I guarantee you her IQ is lower than Joy Reid's. All right, so here. As recently as June 2019, Biden praised the civility, quote unquote, of the segregationist senators he worked with in Congress to pass anti-busing legislation. I'm not going to go into detail because I want to keep this short, and I want to get to the second video that Gabe has lined up for you. Number 2, hat tip Breitbart, by the way. This is a list of 10 examples of Joe Biden's history of racially charged conduct and comments that the guy has made that seemingly the Breakfast Club doesn't know about. Number 2, Biden praised the notorious segregationist politician George Wallace. He boasted about how Wallace once honored him with an award in 1973 and told a Southern audience in 1987 that, quote, "We Delawareans were on the South side in the Civil War." They were on the South side. In other words, trying to uphold slavery. No word about that, but I guarantee you these people that are so concerned about mass incarceration, that speak out on mass incarceration, I bet you they voted for Joe Biden. I wish Larry Elder would have asked them if they voted in 2020 for a presidential candidate, and if they did, which candidate they voted for. Let me guess. I guarantee you it was Joe Biden. I guarantee it. Number 3, and again, I can go into great detail on these topics, but I won't. I'm just going to give you 10 examples of Joe Biden being racist as HE double hockey sticks. Number 3, Biden opposed busing in the 1970s and expressed fears that it would lead to a racial jungle. And he did not want his kids mixing with black kids in their schools because he thought it would be a racial jungle if that took place. That's Joe Biden. That's or Robert L. Peterson. I'll get into that. You guys, I'm sure you guys have heard the latest breaking news when it comes to the findings of the House Oversight Committee. The guy used a fictitious name. The guy used a fake name, a pseudonym, if you will, of Robert L. Peterson in order to sell out our country when his son, Hunter Biden, was working for his business, selling out our country to foreign nationals. I'll get into that a little later. One of the headlines that I want to touch on Jackson's 5. Number 4, Biden voted to protect the tax-exempt status of private segregated schools. Wow. Number 5, Biden told Black radio host Charlamagne tha God. That's so weird. Quote, "If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black." Quote unquote. That's what Larry Elder confronted him on when Charlamagne was reading Larry Elder or telling Larry Elder, "Do you know what a N-word wake-up call is?" Larry Elder turns to him, wisely so, and says, "It seems to me that you should have had your N-word wake-up call when you allowed a white man to come into your or come onto your show and say you ain't black." Number 6, Biden told the Asian and Latino Coalition of Des Moines that poor kids are just, listen to this, and I quote, "Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids," close quote. Meaning, all poor kids must be minorities, must be black, must be Latino. Number 7, while delivering remarks before a black audience in Delaware, Biden launched into a meandering story about a gang leader named Corn Pop and claimed that he, quote, "learned about roaches," quote unquote, while working at a community pool in a black neighborhood. Wow. Only time you saw roaches around blacks, huh? That's when you learned about roaches, cockroaches, huh? Number 8, in 2008, Biden referred to then presidential candidate Barack Obama as, quote, "the first sort of mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean," close quote. Apparently, there weren't other black, smart, mainstream Americans around that showered before Barack Obama came into play. Number 9, in 2006, Biden told C-SPAN, quote, "You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent," quote unquote. Could you imagine if a Republican said anything, came close to saying anything like this? The Republican would have gone to his grave not living that down. Number 10, Biden falsely claimed to have, quote, "marched in the civil rights movement," unquote. And if you watch the entire interview with Larry Elder, Larry Elder is an encyclopedia when it comes to stats. I mean, it's insane how much the guy takes in and remembers. It is freakish. I mean, he's really got a gift when it comes to that. But he goes through a litany of things that, where Biden pretended or lied about being part of a civil rights movement somehow in Delaware. Just complete and utter lies every single time. All right. Now, having said that, I want to get back to we got a second clip lined up for you that I want to get to. This one, I'm telling you, it's hard to take with this chick, but let's break it down. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the second video.
Now, because it's in that, all of a sudden, the governor is accused of somehow defending slavery. He's not doing anything of the sort.
You were actually one that defended slavery. In your comments, you said that, like it or not, slavery was legal in response to reparations. So it's you that was defending slavery, correct?
Defending it and saying that it's illegal are two.
Stop for just a sec, Gabe. I want you to notice right off the bat how dumb she is. Right off the bat. You were defending slavery by saying slavery was legal. No, you moron. I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean. That's not a defense. That is called a fact. That is called a fact. If you watch the entire interview, this chick pulls stuff like this for the entire show, and she thinks she's smart because she's mad. Oh, another mad black. Yes, she's mad. She's strictly emotional, trying to pretend as if she's smart. And she tries to pretend to be smarter than Larry Elder by saying, oh, the system, as if it's over his head. And the truth is the conversation is over her head. So she has to keep saying, well, the system is racist. The system is right. Oh, this is a simple question. And she just asks stupid questions, and they get dumber by the hour. And you can tell it's just emotionally charged. But her argument, her catch-all is the system. It's the system. Why? Because it justifies her own thinking, and it justifies her own racism. All right, let's get back to it. I'm sorry. This chick it makes me mad. Honestly, I don't believe we should cater to black voters like this. I don't. I think it is a complete and utter waste of time. I think it reverts them back to Proverbs 13:20 that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. That lady's a fool. I'm sorry. She may be a nice lady off camera. I doubt it based upon that. Sure, she's nice to the people around her. Doesn't seem like a very nice lady at all. Very condescending, very nasty. All right, let's go back to it, Gabe. Sorry.
Slavery, unfortunately.
Well, that was your response. That was your response into if reparations should happen. So your response to that was, like it or not, slavery was legal, and one would think that was a defense on those who.
Well, what you would think it was a defense, but it is not a defense. Unfortunately, slavery has been part and parcel of human history from the very beginning. Asians enslaved Asians, whites enslaved whites, blacks enslaved blacks, Native Americans enslaved Native Americans. There are a lot of people have bloody hands in slavery. Mm-hmm. For example, slavery could not have existed had it not been for African chieftains who were selling black slaves captured in battle or captured through raids and selling them to European and Arab slavers. It could not have existed without that. So everybody has dirty hands here. That's why reparations is such a foolish thing. If you're going to get reparations from the 5% or so of white people that have some sort of generational connection to slavery, and that's all there is, then you need to go back to Africa and get money from African countries that were involved in the slave trade and in the Arab slave trade. And by the way, the Arab slave trade was even worse than European slave trade.
So if they go after the money from the other countries, then would you agree that it would be okay to go after the money from America? Is that your problem? When are you going to stop with this? Everybody has a grievance. I'm answering your question. There's no end. There'll be no end to this because slavery has been part of human history from the very beginning. So I asked you a very simple question. You said, if you're going to go after it in America,
hold on. And then this is, that's the end of it. So he says it's a waste of time. You'll see a lot of liberals posting. Larry Elder says reparations is a waste of time. She says it's a simple question. So if we go after Africa, then we should go after America. Listen, if you went after Africa, you would actually understand how evil, you would understand more so how evil and how widespread it was and how you yourself may not be innocent. The lady does not, and she has no depth. She can't understand context. This is the entire show with her. Whenever she pops up, that's the entire show. You will never You will never win an argument with a fool. It will not happen. I'm not saying, I'm speaking biblically, all right? I'm not trying to be mean for the sake of being mean. You will never win an argument with a person like that. There's so much hatred and bitterness in her heart. She's going to use every argument she can to justify that racism and that bitterness in her own heart. That's what racists do. She's a racist. And honestly, I would say that entire crew, including Charlemagne, are racist. They're racist. Now, I appreciate Larry Elder being willing to go into the lion's den. And I pray to God that a few people may have woken up. But if you're watching that show, it's because you're willing to use the excuse that a system is holding you back by a bunch of rich black people, that the system is against you, by a bunch of rich black people that exist in a system that has created them wealth. I ask you the same questions. What are they willing to go back to the system in Africa? Are they willing to go back there? How did they become successful in the system? How is it that they're so concerned about rape, reparations, and slavery? But some of the things that they mention, mass incarceration. Larry Elder mentioned stats about more blacks being shot and killed by blacks. 60% of those, 60% of shootings that occur, disproportionately committed by blacks. He talked about mass incarceration. He talked about mass shootings. He debunked them on everything they threw at him, and they walked away unchanged, unenlightened. Their hearts are dark, and I'm sorry, I don't think you can get through to people like that. They're so worried about slavery and reparations that when blacks are running city, and that's another thing. She kept saying blacks don't have any power, despite the fact that Barack Obama was the president. We had two AGs, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, one after the other. But she kept going back. Well, did they? But in the system that was created. All right, so find a better system. What's the better system? Is there a better system in Africa? What system around the world has given blacks as much opportunity as the United States of America and our Judeo-Christian values? Not a damn one. And I wish Larry Elder would have cornered her on that. I'll be honest with you. I wish he would have went back at her a couple of times with just some questions to rock her a little bit, because people walked away thinking that chick was smart. I watched that and I was like, that is a low IQ voter. That's somebody who I wish were not voting. All right, let me just, enough of that. Let me just mention a couple of these headlines because some of them are very important, including one that I think is, absolutely huge. I had the article saved and somehow I lost it, but I noticed it was on the tip sheet this morning. So I want to revert back to that. But Joe Biden, apparently, he was using a fake name, a name Robert L. Peterson. I first saw it on Daily Wire, but it was also on Town Hall, as Katie Pavlich reported. I don't know who reported it initially, but obviously it came from the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. And let me find this first. Okay. Here it is. President Biden's Hunter-related communications requested by the House Oversight Committee, including his pseudonym. So according to Town Hall, House Oversight Committee, Comer is calling on the National Archives and the Records Administration to turn over documents that are related to then Vice President Joe Biden, Joe Biden's work in Ukraine, while his son, Hunter Biden, was getting paid $80,000 per month sitting on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company. Comer is seeking unredacted documents and communications in which then Vice President Joe Biden, I want you guys to listen to this, used a pseudonym. Hunter Biden, Eric Schwerin, or Devin Archer is copied. This is what he wants from the National Archives. He wanted to make sure that he gets paperwork, emails, so on, etc., copies of emails where these people's names are included. These are the people that were working or working for Joe Biden, I should say. All right. Eric Schwerin, he was the money guy. Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, has testified that Joe Biden was on speaker calls with them at least 20 times. All right. So Joe Biden was the big guy. Joe Biden was the big boss. All right. He cannot. As more of this surfaces, hopefully it'll start getting out to the ether even more. Joe Biden is in trouble eventually. If nothing else, I think he should go out with his tombstone saying, "Here lies Robert L. Peterson," because this is the fake name that he was using to conduct business with Hunter Biden. All right, so Comer is seeking unredacted documents and communications in which then VP Joe Biden used a pseudonym. Again, Hunter Biden, Eric Schwerin, or Devin Archer is copied, and all drafts of then VP Biden's speech delivered to the Ukrainian Rada in December 2015. That's from Town Hall. Now, Just the News says the archives released a handful of other emails, some redacted, with other private communications. Comer said he needed the fully unredacted emails, making what is known as a quote unquote special access request to the National Archives. Attached to this email made available on the NARA website, NARA, is a document that indicates at 9 a.m. on May 27, 2016, VP Biden took a call with the president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko. He added, it is concerning to the committee, however, that this document was sent to, I said Robert Peterson. It's Robert L. Peters, a pseudonym that the committee has identified as then Vice President Biden. This guy was using a fake name while he was vice president to conduct business with his son with foreign entities. All right, the pseudonym the committee has identified is then VP Biden. Additionally, the committee questions why then VP son, or Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and only Hunter Biden was copied on this email to then VP Biden. Man, this guy was selling out our country while he was VP, making money. It's yet to be seen as to how this money has influenced foreign policy, but there's no doubt in my mind that it did. This is huge. The fake name that he used, Robert L. Peters, I have to correct that because I already put this out on Facebook, and I don't know why I thought it was Peterson, but it is Peters. And for some reason, that sounds even more funny. I don't know why. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I did put it correctly. All right, Robert L. Peters. All right. I don't know why I thought I said Peterson. All right, so good. Good. So now that you know that, all right, just a couple of more headlines, and then we will close out the show. By the way, please, again, subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Our sponsor for today is MyPillow, MyPillow.com. They are offering fabulous deals right now. They've got the queen size MyPillow for only $19.98. It normally sells for $69.98. All right. All you have to do is go to MyPillow.com. And the radio podcast square at the top of the page, click on that, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L. All right. And then you'll receive the discount. Or if you prefer, you can call 800-858-0263. Let me give you that number again, 800-858-0263 to take advantage of the MyPillow deal. Queen size MyPillow for only $19.98. Guys, that's all I use are MyPillows. I guarantee you are going to love it. Regularly priced at $69.98, only $19.98. If you want a queen size, it's $29.98. And more good news. Anything that you might want on that website or anything that you've been considering, now is the time to buy it because there are deep discounts literally on everything. Use my name as the promo code, C-A-R-L, all right? American jobs, American manufacturing, and a good night's rest. So you can't beat that with a bat. All right, just a couple of more headlines before we close out the show. Hawaii Electric new equipment was not safe for years. And I appreciate this. Wall Street Journal is announcing that. Why wasn't the government on top of that? I don't, during the 2019 wildfire season, one of the worst Maui had ever seen, Hawaiian Electric concluded that it needed to do far more to prevent its power lines, according to the Wall Street Journal, from emitting sparks. The utility examined California's plan to reduce fires ignited by power lines started flying drones over its territory and about to take steps to protect its equipment and its customers from the threat of fire. Nearly 4 years later, the company has completed little such work. Between 2019 and 2020, it invested less than $245,000 on wildfire-specific projects on the island, regulatory filings show. It didn't seek state approval to raise rates to pay for broad wildfire safety improvements until 2022 and has yet to receive it. Now the company is facing scrutiny, litigation, and financial crisis over indications that its power lines might have played a role in igniting the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. But here's the problem that I have with that. I mentioned on the show yesterday, please check out my podcast from yesterday where we talked about the issue of Maui specifically. All of the things that government did wrong, local government, all ran by Democrats from the federal level, Joe Biden, to local and state officials in Hawaii. They need to get some blame. A lot of that grass that was highly flammable should have been maintained by government. They didn't do it. Stuff is highly flammable. So we need to make sure it isn't just the electric companies getting all the blame so that the left can scapegoat it just like they do climate change for their incompetence. All right, California Democrats would criminalize causing disorder at school board meetings, another attempt to shut parents up and brainwash your kids. Mortgage rates today are at a high time, 20-year high, now at 7.9%. Pricing more youngsters out of the American dream. Fewer and fewer people will be moving around as a result of that. These people are killing the middle class. That's what they've been wanting to do. They are absolutely killing the middle class. Here's another one. I read it the other night, or broke it the other night on when I was in for the Officer Tatum. I almost said Larry Elder show, but it's Officer Tatum show now. But 5 terrorists that were masterminds to 9/11 could be spared the death penalty. I say throw them in the exact same jail and jail cell that Jeffrey Epstein was in, and make sure the cameras aren't working again. Absolutely insane. All right, guys, I'm going to close out the show today. I hope you guys will have a magnificent weekend. If you get a chance, please check out the entire video with Larry Elder. Please donate to his campaign. I understand you might be a Trump supporter. You might be a DeSantis supporter. But I believe that some of these issues need to get on the stage. Some of the issues that he espouses, he's great when it comes to, obviously, the issue of systemic racism. He's great when it comes to the issue of homelessness and all the things that California is dealing with. He can bring to the table. He can speak to those issues intelligently so we can make sure that America does not become California. So help him get on stage, LarryElder.com. I think he needs a total of 40,000 people to donate, but I think he only needs 10,000 more. If you donate $1, it'll help. We need to get these issues on the board. Anheuser-Busch Air, Billy Bush offers to buy Bud Light brand back to the right. Buy the brand back to right the ship. I hope they're able to do that. Even SeaWorld, when they actually owned SeaWorld, things were much better at SeaWorld in Orlando. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe wherever you go to get your podcast. We would certainly appreciate that. And then until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.